Okay, let me show you some results of that study. First, we looked at interaction frequency. How often do biomedical researchers in these countries interact with the mass media? And we asked how often did you have contact with the media in the past 3 years? And surprisingly, something like 70% said that they had contact with journalists in the past 3 years. And this does hardly vary between the 5 countries. And there is about 30% who said that they at least have contacts with the media 2 times a year. I mean, it's always a question, is it half full or half empty a bottle or a glass? But to me, this seems that interactions with mass media is no exceptional behavior. It is more or less routine behavior. And if we look, I will not show that, but if we would look at which scientists have particularly often contact with journalists, it is a scientists that have higher positions. It's a scientists who publish more, and it's the older scientists. They've had more time to acquire contacts and so on, become visible and so on. So sometimes there is criticism of journalism that it uses sources that are scientifically not sound. Maybe that takes place, and maybe that takes place in some areas more often than in others. But in general, we must say, well, it's the scientists who are also within science, have a higher status and have done peer-reviewed publications and so on, that are particularly often selected as sources by journalists. And it seems to me a quite reasonable pattern of sourcing by journalism. We see here hardly differences between the country. There are some differences, but not that big. But we see differences between the 2 research fields we studied, namely stem cell research and epidemiology. And we can really understand this difference, that epidemiologists have more frequent contact with the media than stem cell researchers, because epidemiology is of immediate relevance to health issues, to health problems. And so on one hand, it is more relevant to the general audience, and it is more easily to report on epidemiology questions than on stem cell research. So stem cell researchers are more often people who are in the lab and do complicated things. Epidemiologists usually come up with some conclusion whether we should eat that or that, smoke or not smoke, and so on and so forth, that relates to everyday behavior and is, because of the health effect, is related to important values in our society. Well, how do scientists evaluate their contacts with journalists? And here, for me, it was not a surprise, as I'll show you later, the reason for that, but for many of my collaborators and for many of the audience, it was a surprise that the average evaluation of the interactions with the mass media by scientists is quite positive. So here we have a small difference regarding country. Japanese researchers are less satisfied, somewhat less satisfied than than researchers in the other countries, but the difference is not that big. So we have something like 75% of the researchers saying they are mainly positive. The experiences with journalists have been mainly good, and only a small fraction, a few percent, 3–4%, say the experiences with journalists have been mainly bad. Okay, and there is some proportion, some 15 to 20% who say it is relatively balanced. You gave me 1 hour and 30 minutes. I used up 1 hour and 8 minutes according to this clock.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I appreciate the warning. Yeah, I appreciate the warning. Yeah, okay. I will fight for every second now. Okay, so as a consequence, I will skip this slide. The question is, have this experience become more positive or negative over time? And in Germany, we have done quite a number of surveys of scientists and also some of journalists in the past 25 years or so. First in the year 1984, and it's not really comparable each because the sampling process is different. I will not go into the details here, but I have clustered those who are comparable. And I've looked at the difference in satisfaction rates of scientists, and all the results show, all the comparisons show that scientists nowadays are more satisfied with journalists than they were some 20 years or so ago. And the same is also true for journalists evaluating their experience with scientists. So at least there is some evidence that the harmony, so to say, the harmony between the two groups is increasing. And as you said, whether it is a good thing or a bad thing remains to be discussed. I mean, we can now speculate. We don't know the reason. We have no hard data about the reasons why this improved satisfaction is happening. But one reason might be that journalism is becoming better, so scientists are more satisfied with it. Okay, maybe, but I really doubt. Another reason may be scientists are now more experienced dealing with the media. They have done media training, so they know how to better communicate with journalists, and so they avoid many errors. That could be a possibility. Perhaps there is something in it that's true. Another less positive explanation would be scientists have become have changed their criteria of satisfaction with the mass media. Let's say that, and I think there is a lot of to argue in favor of that explanation. And then the question is, what could that be? And my hypothesis would be they are less they are evaluating mass media coverage less from the perspective of accuracy or from content, and more in terms of does it benefit them or not. So from a strategic point of view. So my hypothesis would be scientists, I will show a little of that later. Scientists are becoming strategic communicators increasingly, and this may have many consequences for the content of what they are offering to journalism, and also what kind of success criteria they apply. And that the response rate, that the satisfaction rate is so high and even increasing, may have to do with that journalism simply has a big benefit to the researchers. Okay. I come now to some trends in science journalism and the relationship of scientists and journalists that I have labeled institutionalization, professionalization, and strategic utilization of media contacts by scientific sources. Scientific sources, individual scientists, but also research organizations and their public relations departments. And what I think we can observe here is that the organizational context, that means the context of the university or the research institute, is becoming more and more important as a regulating context for scientists than the scientific communities. 20 years ago, if we would have discussed science journalism, the readiness of scientists to engage in interactions with the mass media, we all would have referred to scientific norms that would prevent scientists to talk to the media. This seems to be less and less a factor affecting the readiness of scientists to deal with media. And on the other hand, research organizations make every effort to convince scientists to talk to the media, because the research organizations are the first to profit from it. Their visibility in the media is the legitimacy resource saying, well, we deserve funding, we are good, we are in the media, we are relevant. And so they tell their scientists to interact with the media and to be ready to accept journalistic criteria and not being pissed off if some inaccuracy takes place. So the hypothesis is inaccuracies are not that important to scientists any longer as it used to be some 20 years ago. It can be a good thing for journalism because many inaccuracies are really unimportant, but it's a bad thing. But because scientists should be those people in our society who are most devoted to the truth. And the fact that they are claiming all kinds of inaccuracies is a good thing because it says they are still devoted to defending truth against any attempt to modify it or to delude it in a way.